Hi, this is a video to try and help students working on the dissertation to make effective use of Word to help them process their dissertation, their words, and make them work efficiently. I'm going to try and divide it up into 5 sections, and I'm going to start right now with preparing the work environment. So I'm going to start by opening up a new document in Word. I'm using 2016, but if you've got an earlier version of Word, it's generally pretty much the same. So I'll click on File, New, and open up a blank document. Okay, now one of the things that you've got to prepare is certain add-ins that you might need. Now, often we get dissertations that have bad grammar, so I would suggest one of the things you should do is install Grammarly. Grammarly is an add-in that helps identify spelling mistakes and basic English errors. There's a free version, and then there is obviously one that's paid for that actually refines, but it's more than enough to create your own Grammarly account and install the Grammarly add-in into it, and you'll find if I go into add-ins, you'll see that I already have Grammarly installed as an add-in. Search for Grammarly, look for the instructions on how to do that. The other thing you should do or consider is installing something that will work with your references. There is a Microsoft's own attempt at that, but actually I've been using Mendeley. I find that quite useful. I'm not going to explain how to use it. I've also used Zotero, which is another free tool. And the university gives you a RefWorks, and RefWorks is a free to use tool that you can be using to be pulling papers, journals, articles, so that you can use them efficiently when you come to drop in references into your Word document. The add-in that goes with that RefWorks is Write in Sight, so you would have to install Write in Sight into your references. Again, that's another add-in that you would have. But for the time being, I'm not going to focus now on the references, but basically you're preparing your environment to work. The first thing I would suggest you do is always click on View and have the navigation pane on. Right? That's a useful sidebar to allow you to see what you're doing, how you're working. The second thing, back to the home, is this button here. This is called the Show and Hide button. And what it does is it shows little field codes or little bits of coding that's actually in your document that you don't normally see. So if I was to type something in here and then press a carriage return or 2 or 3, then basically I'm fixing I'm putting in a bit of text and I'm dropping in basically carriage. These are called carriage returns. So this symbol is called a carriage return. Now if I switch that off, then what you see is just the text. But the problem then is if I want to then type something, maybe on the next line, I just type here I am in the document, and I press return. What I'm doing is I'm actually putting in text, but sometimes I might have a space there or a carriage return there rather. So as you can see, I'm able to look at a document but not know that in that section there, in between the two sentences, there is actually a carriage return. So my advice is to always have that document on. If you do that and that becomes your good practice, then you will stop seeing those as actual characters that will appear in your document. So if I was to print this document out right now, these carriage return symbols would not appear. The other thing that's worth noting is that there are a little dot in between, and if I zoom in, you'll be able to see those little dots. These dots are useful in that they show where you have inserted a space. So if I click there and do lots of spaces, you can see where you've put a space. One of the things I like, personal thing, to be able to see where a student starts a new sentence. So I would normally put the full stop at the end, and then I quite like 2 spaces, and type something like the next sentence starts here, full stop. So I quite like the idea that you have these 2 spaces in between sentences. I think what happens when you come to print the document off, if I switch the codes off, you can clearly see there's a new sentence there. It's not a requirement, but it, for me, helps me read the document. So I simply suggest it. Okay, so having this on all the time is an important thing for you to do. Now, one of the things we're going to do in a document now is look at the use of styles. Okay, so quite often somebody is writing a paragraph, and if I can just take a paragraph here from a bit of text here, I've got like this, Control C, just Control C, select that paragraph. To select it, all I did was double click in the boundary there, in the margin, Control C, and I'll go back to that Word document I was playing around with, and if I now paste that in, okay, and what a student will normally do is they'll probably do 2 carriage returns, and then they might come along and they'll write Control C, copy that, paste that in, and then they'll start their paragraph, the new paragraph there. So that kind of looks okay. You've got a paragraph there, and then you've got a paragraph there, but actually you've got a carriage return there. Okay, so what's quite good to do is, so that you don't ever have to put lots of carriage returns in order to get something on another page, what we make use of extensively are these style boxes up here in what's called the style gallery. So I'm now going to show you how to use that. So in this document here, I'm going to first of all, I'm going to add a new style. I'm going to click on this little button there that now takes me into the styles that are available in this document. I can choose options, and I can basically see all styles or styles that are used in the document. Click OK, and as you can see, there's lots and lots of different styles that are already in the document, kind of hidden or tucked away. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new document style, a new style. I'm going to click in this box down the bottom, click new style. I'm going to call it Gym Body. So that's the name of it. It's going to be the text that I would normally write in a paragraph. It's based on the style normal, which is good, and the style I want to come after it when I start a new paragraph, I also want it to be Gym Body. So I'm now going to click OK, and there is a new style that now exists, and there it is up there at the top. Now what you may want to do is to make sure that that comes first in your list, So you can actually remove it from the style gallery, or you can go into options. Is it this one? Yeah, this one here. So what you can do is come in and make sure gym body appears with a number 1. I could move it down so that it gets a 2, and if I click OK, you see it's jumped down and this normal style has now appeared. But I want to do that again, so I click there, choose gym body and move it up to the top. OK, click OK. Right, the other thing I would do is this normal style is a kind of sub-style that applies to all the documents. So my suggestion you do here with normal is to actually remove it from the style gallery. It's not a good idea to have it there, and it's not a good idea to use it, because if you use it, it affects other styles. Okay, so I'm now going to choose this paragraph here, double click on the margin, and I'm going to assign the style gym body to it. So when I now click in this document, and I click in this this here. Oh, and remember what I said, always have the field codes on that show the codes. So you can see that that box is highlighted, which means that paragraph there has a style gym body. If I click in that sentence there, it has a style normal. Okay, and I can just close this style down for a moment. But let's do something with style body, with gym body, in order to fix it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify this, and I'm going to make some changes to it. I'm going to decide what font I want to use. I'm quite happy to use Calibri body. I'll leave it as that. But what I want to do is I want to throw a nice paragraph at the end. I want a space at the end when I'm working with a document. So I might throw 6 points at the start of the paragraph and 12 points at the end. So I click OK, and now click OK to that, and if I delete those carriage returns there, you can see I've got my 6 space there and I've got a 12 space there. So as you can see, there's no need for me to put a carriage return in there now. When I click on that paragraph there and then go to gym body, it's now, every time I've got a paragraph that's in the style of gym body, it's throwing a nice carriage return. If I'm not happy with that and I want to do a bit more, I'll go modify, back into format, paragraph, and let's make it 18 points. Okay, I'm going to click OK. So you saw that slightly move down. There's a bigger gap now appearing, and everywhere I'm using gym body, it's giving me a bigger space. Okay, so I want to make that gym body, I want to make that gym body, I want to get rid of that carriage return there. All those carriage returns I don't need. So my whole document now is in the style of gym body. Great, so that's how I would set up the style that I now use for my main text. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to think about the structure of my document and work through using headings. I'm not wanting to manually number the headings, I want a Word to do this. So here's my first tip then. My first tip here is to go to View, and instead of on the navigation pane, keep it open, but click on Outline. So this shows me each paragraph there, and it kind of gives me a hierarchical view on the document. So if you're going to write a dissertation, your first heading would be Introduction. Okay, now that introduction heading needs to become a heading. We don't want it to make it body text. We want to bring it up to level 1 so that it's a document right at the top at the highest level we can get, level 1. And then we want to have a second one. If I just press return, it jumps to my second line, and as you can see, that line is also at level 1. I want to write my literature review in there. Next one might be research methodology, and then my third one might be results and discussion. And then I may have conclusions, something like that. And then I may even have references, and then I may even have appendix. Okay, so there's my document. I've created my high-level headings, but I want to put a little bit of structure underneath this. So I press on introduction, and I click in a blank, and I press tab, and tab drops me down a level. If I press shift tab, it takes me back up a level, but I could easily do that by coming over to level 1 and choosing level 2. So I can either use tab and shift tab, or I can use these levels here. And so this might be my heading that says background. This is inside my introduction chapter. I might have background. I then might have aims and objectives. And then I might have rest of document. Okay. Now, depending on your literature review, whatever the subject is, you do the same. You put a bit of a structure to it. So I'm just going to, let's say I'm going to do something on recycling. So what I might want to do here is look at development of recycling systems. Okay, and then what I may want to do is talk about door collection versus drop-off. Okay, now you notice that I tabbed that down so that is now actually at level 3. Okay, so this is a way of building up what I'm going to write about. I might talk about European practice. I might want to talk about UK practice, or I may want to talk about rest of world practices. Okay, but that's now beginning to get a little bit messy. So what I could do is go in here and create something called current practices. And then what I can do is tab that there on the European, tab on the UK practice line, and then tab on the rest of the world practice. In fact, what I might want to do is change that to global practices, and maybe I'll just drag that up to that level. All I'm doing is clicking and holding my mouse down and dragging it up. I can drag up or I can drag down. Okay, but what I'm doing is I'm thinking about my my structure of my literature review. So I might call this infrastructure requirements and so on. And I continue to do that, and I continue to put my in there in recommendations. I might do that, and I might do conclusions, and I might do recommendations. So you can see these little boxes, these little circles with the plus and minuses rather, are giving me a bit of structure to it. So what I might want to do is take that background, and I might want to take the text there that I wrote. I might just want to drag it up and drop it into there. And I'll just do the same with that, just drop it in there. So I've got a bit of background text that's in that area there. I can choose to just hide it if I double click on it. And you see the little line across there. But I'll double click again, you can see it. Okay, what's the point of all of this and why is this important? So what I can do is select Introduction there and assign it heading 1. I can assign heading 1 to the literature review, I can assign heading 1 to the research, and I can assign heading 1 to those values there, and then these also I assign to as heading 1. I now want these to be heading 2, I want that to be heading 2, I want that to be heading 3, that a heading 2, those are heading 3, and then that is there is also heading 2, and those two are at heading 2 level. Great. So next thing I want to do is choose this multi-list value, go to heading 1, heading 2, so it's that multi-list list, click on heading 2, and as you can see it's automatically put a numbering system in place for us. And if I now bring that, if I come back to outline, close that view, you can see I've got all my numbering going on there. But go back to view outline and let's drop that paragraph there into that section there. Got to be careful because it's kind of lost the heading 2, level 2 there. That you got to double click on that background and assign it level 2 again. And that there is my gym body, bit of text, and so on. So if I now view this, if I now close outline view and come back to my document, this is what I have. The good thing is in outline, if I now choose to move UK practice up a level, it automatically gets the numbering right. So you don't have to worry about the numbering. Okay, so I just want to show a little bit of information relating to how to write captions and how to use tables and figures in Word documents. I'm going to do this by switching again back to view outline and just bring this paragraph here up to there and press carriage return so we know we're starting a new paragraph at that point. And I'm going to insert my figure in between. So I've got a document that has no formatting in, but I've got a graph that I've drawn before. And I'm just going to take this image and I'm going to take it out of this document and go Control-C to copy it. And I'm going to bring it back to this document here. I'm not going to put, I'll put it in this section here. And I want to insert and place that image there. So I now go Control-V and there's the image. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to make sure I label this, because if I move my document about, I could be putting this figure in, and then I may put a figure in before this, and then the numbering all changes. So I want to be consistent with my figure numbering. So what I do is I put an image in. I'm going to right click on the image and choose Insert Caption. Now it's already starting to suggest figure 1. If there were figures in before, it would have suggested figure 3 or 4 or whatever. But before I do this, I want to change the numbering style. It's better to include, and when you begin to build up a dissertation with lots of figures in it, it's best to have the chapter number included. It's also good to choose the period as the separator. So we'll do that and choose that. So as you can see, this is suggesting figure 1.1. So the first one is the chapter number, the second one is the figure number in that chapter number. The next thing I'm going to suggest you do is you put it, and again there's no hard and fast rules, but I suggest you put the figure number above the selected item. So this will be historical historical graph of recycling data. OK, and I now click OK to that. So it has dropped that figure, that bit of text in there. You can see the 1 and the 1 are kind of dark shadowed in some way. That's because it's being automatically generated by the program. If I was to do and try and insert a figure here at this location, the figure number would be figure 1.12. If I was to do it in this location under research methodology, it would be figure 3.1. Now, one thing to watch is that I just pressed carriage return and it put in a new value there. As part of your setup, it's a good idea to have to go into the heading in 1 and modify it. By modifying it, what you do is you click on modify and you change the style to follow whenever you do a carriage return to gym body. And by the way, this is where you also can change the color and the style and any spacing. Now, one thing that's always good to see is on the start of a new chapter, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, it's always good to start on a new page. So choose format, paragraph, come into line breaks and choose page break before. Click OK, click OK. So what we've now got, if I double click on these lines here, is anytime we've now got a new chapter, like heading 1, literature review or research methodology, you can see it's throwing a new page. You don't have to tell it to do that or put lots of carriage returns in. It will automatically manage that for you. And any time now I put a carriage return after a research methodology, the style that's going in is gym body, no longer normal. You basically have to do the same for heading 2. We're going to modify. Let's make it black in color. Let's go to format, paragraph. Oh, no, not paragraph, sorry. After that, after heading 2, make normal gym body be the style that comes after it. Click OK. OK. And you do the same for heading 3. Essentially just use gym body style or whatever body style you're using. Okay, but one thing is we don't quite like is this style here for this graph. Well, if I drop down the style gallery box, I'm looking for a caption. It's not there. The caption style is not there. But if I open up the style as I did before, you can see that if I click on that piece of text, the caption, it is highlighting the caption. So what we're going to do is just make a small edit to manage the styles, and let's not hide until use. Let's click on show. Okay, and we might want to move it up. So what we do is we increase the number so that it eventually appears somewhere on the text on the style gallery at the top. Keep going. Probably there will do it. Next to style, click OK, and as you can see, there's the caption style now visible. That might not be the style you want to do the caption in, so another way to modify styles is to click on bold, take the italics off, maybe make it a bit bigger so you can see it nice and clearly, and then come over to caption, right click and update caption to match selection. So that means anytime I now put a caption in anywhere else in this document, it will go in the same style as used by this text here. Now, one other thing you've got to remember and think about is quite often you'll end up with a page break that will naturally occur between that text there and the image. Well, you don't want to do that. So what I suggest you do again is go into choose the style, come into caption, modify, format, paragraph, and then have this checked all the time, keep with next. So basically it keeps, this text will stay with the figure that will appear in the next page. So if I come in here and do something that I'm not telling you to do, but I'm illustrating it here, what will happen is, as you can see, it keeps the text with the image. Next thing I want to show you is how to bring in Excel charts into your document. Quite often a student might take those columns there, go Control C to copy, and then paste the text into their document there, like just like that. That's all very well and good, that's fine, and it's as you can see, it's a table. But sometimes a student might actually choose to paste in a Excel chart. So let me show you what can happen and how to prepare charts from Excel into Word. First thing I'm going to do is select I'm going to quickly draw a graph here. I'm going to click on Insert. I'm going to do Recommended Charts. I'm going to choose this scatter plot here, and I'm going to draw those there like that. That's me drawing those two variables. One is CO, carbon monoxide, there is hydrogen chloride. So what I want to do is prepare that. So first thing I'll do is select the chart and move the chart into a sheet called New Chart. And basically I now have my own picture of that here. Some things I need to fix. This is not a graph of CO. I need to basically, it's suggested that wrong, so I'm going to delete that. I'm going to select the whole diagram. I'm going to come up and I'm going to enlarge all the variables here so that they're nice and big, something like that. Okay. Why make it big? It's because when you plot this, you will find that the axis sizes are actually very small in the Word document, so it's better to do that. I can play around with this. If I click on the axis here, I can come in and design, add a chart element, axis titles, horizontal, and this was HCl and HCl brackets milligrams per litre. So it looks like that. Click away, and I can do the same in the bottom axis here. I can also double click in that axis, and I can change the ticks that I might get on the edging, and change the line style. So if I select that axis, I can make it go from 0 to 10. I can have major, so I can change that to 1. I click away. It's now got 1, and I can add tick marks on the minor, like inside. So I play around with my graph, and I get it looking something that looks nice. Next thing I will do quite often is I can use a snippet tool. It's like this, snipping tool. I click New, and then what I can do is I click and drag. So I choose my area. There's my diagram. There's the area I now go Edit, Copy, and I go back to my Word document, that I've been working on, and I want to paste it into this section here. Notice I've done the text nice and big, and it's kind of looking okay. I now go right click, insert caption. It's now going figure 2, plot of HCl versus CO. It's still using above the selected item, which is good, and it's labeling it a figure. Okay, excuse the plot. I can edit that as long as I don't change or edit that number there. Allow the system to do that. What I can do as well, if I go back to my sheet, is I can take my few values from the table, Control C, come back into the Word document here, and say here are the results in a table. Press return, and now what I'm going to do is just do a Control V, so paste the value. So I need to do a bit of formatting. My own preference is to do it something like this. So I choose the top row, I want to bold it, I want to center it, and these values here I want to be lined up in the middle, so I center them. What I might do also then is quite like to put a line at the bottom, a little line on the top, and go down to the bottom and put a line on the bottom. So there's my table. If I now right click, insert caption, but this time my label has to be a table. I have to get the numbering right. I want to include the chapter number, and I want to use a period as before. Click OK, and I want to put it above the item. So this is HCl and CO data, and I click OK. So that's how you would do a table now appearing in the document. I'd probably select the table as well, and probably center it in the middle, and probably center the style of this, or maybe leave that where it, no, I'd leave that where it is, or center it. It means then, notice that I've centered this here. If I update the caption to match the selection, it's also moved the caption above as well. So that's how I would use that in tables in a document. Now what I did here with this figure was I used that snipping tool. What I could have done, if I do it down the bottom here and type here, and this is in my gym body style, but let's say I wanted to put my chart in. If I did this and just went, I'm just going to go Control C to copy, and now I'm going to go back to my Word document and go Control V. What I've actually now got in this document is, you can see I'm able to click on different values. I've actually got the object of the Excel sheet embedded in. That's not a good idea. So you can use the snippet tool, or you can come back to this Control C by selecting the whole object, come back into the Word document, and this time right click and choose just to copy the picture. And there it is. It's jumped onto the next page. This is the one, so we probably have to do a bit of rescaling there. Okay, but this time it's just the image that's gone in, not the whole Excel document into the Word document. Okay, and the final thing I would show you, suggest you try, is to insert some references. At the moment this has no, if I double click on the gaps here, it just gives me There we are. So that closes everything up. But I want to put some references in. So you can get support from the library or for the Learning Development Centre on this. But if I wanted to put a reference in there, I would come over to References. I would open Mendeley's I would use. So I've got a copy of Mendeley installed. I want to use Harvard. So I've now got it open, so I'm now ready, and I've got a reference here that I want to insert. So I'll go to my Mendeley. I want to insert this here. So click on Insert Citation. Go to my Mendeley application. Click on this paper here if this is the paper I want to insert, and then add the citation to the Word plugin. And as you can see, it's automatically generated the paper. Sometimes you just have to put a space in there, but that's it inserted. I then come down to my references section, and I now press Insert Bibliography. And as you can see, it's automatically pulled in to the references, that reference for that journal. So that's the way to manage your references. No need to type them out. It controls and links your research and your database of papers that you have found. Okay, so I hope that's been helpful. We've looked at preparing the working environment, having the field codes on. We've looked at using Style Gallery. We've talked about how to use Outline View to structure your document. We've shown you how to work with tables and figures and referencing. One quick thing to show you and to demonstrate why it's important to use these field codes and referencing. If I put at the top of the document a bit of text here just at the start of the document, double clicking that to expand it. If I now go come into References, Table of Contents, and it will automatically generate a table of contents, as you can see. If I now insert a table of figures and just choose that, you can see it's inserted the table number, and it will also do insert figure, a table of figures. This is my table of figures. I click OK. So there's my two figures. So what you can do is it prepares a lot of this for you.